The scent hit me first, vanilla and jasmine, foreign and invasive in my own bedroom. I stood frozen in the doorway of what was supposed to be my sanctuary, watching my husband Marcus adjust the pillows on our bed with a care he hadn't shown me in months. "Make yourself comfortable," he said to the blonde woman perched on the edge of my mattress, her designer heels dangling from perfectly manicured toes. Catherine won't mind, but Catherine did mind. Catherine minded very much. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. I stepped back into the hallway, my heart hammering against my ribs as I processed what I'd just witnessed. It was 3 p.m. on a Tuesday, and I wasn't supposed to be home. My conference in Atlanta had been canceled at the last minute, but I hadn't bothered to text Marcus. We barely communicated anymore beyond logistics and cold pleasantries. Now I understood why. I retreated silently to the guest room, the one Marcus had converted into his home office 6 months ago, and pulled out my phone with trembling fingers. But instead of calling a lawyer or my mother or anyone who might offer comfort, I opened my contacts and scrolled to a name I hadn't dialed in 15 years. Nathan Pierce, county sheriff, and my brother. We'd been estranged since our father's funeral, a rift born from pride and stubbornness on both sides. But blood was blood, and right now I needed someone who understood the law as much as they understood betrayal. The phone rang 3 times before his familiar voice answered. Deeper now, but still carrying that protective edge I remembered from childhood. "Catherine?" "Nathan." My voice cracked despite my efforts to keep it steady. "I need your help. Professional help." "What's wrong? Are you hurt?" "Not physically." I pressed my palm against the door, listening to the muffled laughter drifting from my bedroom. "But I need to know something. If someone is trespassing in your home, someone you didn't invite, what are your legal rights?" There was a pause, heavy with understanding. "Are we talking about Marcus?" "And his guest." "Jesus." "Catherine." I heard papers rustling in the background. "Where are you right now?" "Guest room. They don't know I'm home. Do not confront them. Do you hear me? I'm looking up property law right now." More rustling than the clicking of a keyboard. "You said you didn't invite this person into your home?" "I didn't even know she existed until 15 minutes ago." "And the house, it's in your name?" I closed my eyes, silently thanking my late grandmother, who'd left me the Victorian manor in her will. Marcus had been furious when I'd refused to add his name to the deed, but I'd stood firm. "Yes, solely my name." "Then technically she's trespassing. And Catherine." Nathan's voice softened. "If Marcus invited her there without your consent, as the sole property owner, you have every right to request their removal." "Both of them?" "Both of them." Something cold and sharp crystallized in my chest, replacing the hurt with clarity. "How fast can you get here?" "I'm 20 minutes out, but Catherine, think about this. Once I show up in uniform—" "20 minutes," I interrupted. "I'll text you if anything changes." I ended the call and sat on the office futon, my mind racing through the architecture of my marriage's collapse. The late nights Marcus claimed were client emergencies, the new cologne, the way he'd started going to the gym at 5 a.m. instead of after work. The credit card statements I'd ignored, too busy with my own career as a commercial architect to notice the charges from boutique hotels and expensive restaurants in towns we'd never visited together. I'd been a fool, but I wouldn't be a victim. My phone buzzed with a text from Nathan. "On my way. Don't engage, let me handle this." But there was something I needed to do first. I opened my laptop and logged into the security system I'd installed last year after a string of break-ins in our neighborhood. Marcus had complained about the cameras, called them paranoid and excessive. Now I understood his objections. The system stored 30 days of footage in the cloud. I navigated to the bedroom camera, the one I'd positioned to capture the master suite's entrance and the hallway beyond, not the bed itself. Privacy had mattered to me then. I scrolled back through the timeline. 1 week ago, Tuesday afternoon, there she was, the blonde woman, laughing as Marcus pulled her through the bedroom door. I watched them disappear from frame, my throat tightening. 2 weeks ago. Same time, same woman. 3 weeks ago. The pattern emerged like a sickness, every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon while I was supposedly at the office. Except I hadn't been at the office those days. I'd been at various job sites, unreachable, trusting that my husband was exactly where he said he'd be. I downloaded every clip, backed them up to 3 separate drives, and emailed them to my personal account. Then I opened my filing cabinet and pulled out the folder I'd been avoiding for months. Estate planning documents, the prenuptial agreement Marcus had reluctantly signed before our wedding 5 years ago. My grandmother's will, leaving the manor and its substantial grounds solely to me. And tucked in the back, the life insurance policy Marcus had taken out last year with me as the beneficiary. $2 million. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, like this video, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. I'd thought it was sweet at the time, a gesture of commitment and planning for our future. Now, looking at the blonde woman's designer clothes, and the ease with which she moved through my home, I wondered if Marcus had been planning a different kind of future altogether. A sound from the hallway made me freeze. Footsteps, heading toward the kitchen. "I'm starving," the woman's voice carried clearly through the old house. "Does she keep anything good in the fridge, or is she one of those sad salad women?" Marcus laughed. That warm, genuine laugh he used to reserve for me. "Help yourself to whatever. She won't be back until Thursday." My hands curled into fists. The arrogance, the casual cruelty of it. I pulled up my phone's voice recorder and pressed record, then cracked open the office door just enough to hear clearly. "This is a gorgeous house," the woman was saying. "Must have cost a fortune." "It was her grandmother's," Marcus replied, his tone dismissive. "Old money. Catherine acts like she built it herself, but she just inherited luck." "Lucky her, lucky you mean," the sound of the refrigerator opening. "So, when are you going to tell her about us?" My breath caught. "Soon," Marcus said, and I could picture him leaning against the counter the way he always did, casual and confident. "I'm just waiting for the right moment. Her company's about to sign a major contract. Once that's done and the signing bonus hits, we can make our move." "Our move?" The woman's voice was playful but probing. "You, me, and enough money to start over somewhere warm. Maybe California, maybe Costa Rica, somewhere far from her controlling family and their judgmental stares." I stopped the recording, my mind reeling. He wasn't just cheating, he was planning to take my money and run. The signing bonus he mentioned was real, $250,000 for landing the Morrison Plaza project, due to hit my account in 2 weeks. I'd mentioned it to Marcus last month, excited to share my success. He'd been planning to steal it all along. My phone buzzed. 5 minutes out. "Status?" I typed back, "Kitchen," both of them, recording their conversation. Nathan's response was immediate. "Good. Keep recording. Stay hidden. Let me make the entrance." I heard the woman laugh again, followed by the clink of glasses. Were they drinking my wine? Eating my food? Celebrating their plan to rob me blind in my own home? The rage that filled me was ice cold and razor sharp. This wasn't just betrayal. This was calculated theft, emotional abuse, and a violation of everything I'd worked for. I pulled out my tablet and opened my architectural firm's shared drive, navigating to a folder labeled Personal Projects. Inside was something I'd been working on for months, kept secret even from my partners. The Morrison Plaza contract wasn't the only major deal in play. 6 weeks ago, I'd been approached by a Silicon Valley developer interested in purchasing my firm outright. The offer was substantial, $15 million for my client list, my designs, and my reputation. I'd been hesitant, protective of the company I'd built from nothing. But as I listened to Marcus plot his theft with his mistress in my kitchen, drinking my wine and mocking my success, the decision became crystal clear. I opened my email and typed a message to the developer's attorney. "I'm ready to move forward with the sale. Let's expedite the paperwork. I'd like to close within 2 weeks." The response came within minutes. "Excellent news. We can have contracts ready by Friday. We'll arrange wire transfer of deposit immediately. $3 million would hit my account as a deposit. The remaining $12 million would transfer upon closing." Marcus had no idea what was coming. My phone buzzed again, pulling into the driveway now. "Where exactly are they?" "Kitchen. Far back of the house. They won't hear you come in through the front." I saved everything I'd been working on, closed my laptop, and slipped it into my bag along with the folders of documents. Then I crept to the top of the stairs, positioning myself where I could see the front entrance but remain hidden from anyone in the kitchen. The doorbell rang, sharp and official. "Who the hell is that?" Marcus's voice carried irritation and a hint of panic. "I don't know," the woman hissed. "You said she wouldn't be home." "She's not supposed to be. Stay quiet." I watched through the banister railings as Marcus walked toward the front door, his movements tense. He was wearing the shirt I'd bought him for his birthday, the one he claimed made him feel confident. He opened the door and froze. Nathan stood on the threshold in full uniform, his 6'3" frame filling the doorway, his expression carved from stone. 2 deputy sheriffs flanked him, their presence unmistakably official. "Marcus Reynolds?" Nathan's voice carried the weight of authority. "Nathan, what are you doing here?" Marcus tried for friendly confusion, but his voice wavered. "I'm Sheriff Pierce, and I'm here on official business. May I come in? This is my house." "Actually," Nathan interrupted, his tone hardening, "this is Catherine Bennett's house, solely and legally hers. And I have a complaint of trespassing." I descended the stairs slowly, each step deliberate. Marcus's head whipped around at the sound, his face draining of color as he saw me. "Catherine? What? You're not supposed to be home." "No," I agreed, reaching the bottom of the stairs. "I wasn't supposed to be home. I wasn't supposed to see you invite another woman into my bed. I wasn't supposed to hear you plan to steal my signing bonus and run off to Costa Rica. But here we are." The blonde woman appeared from the kitchen, wine glass still in hand, her expression shifting from confusion to alarm as she registered the uniforms. "Ma'am." Nathan addressed her with cold professionalism. "I'm going to need you to set down that glass and step outside. You're trespassing on private property." "Trespassing?" Marcus said. "I don't care what Marcus said. This isn't his property. He has no legal right to invite anyone here without the owner's consent." Nathan's eyes never left her face. "You have 2 choices. Leave voluntarily right now, or be arrested for criminal trespass." "Marcus?" The woman looked at my husband, panic creeping into her voice. Marcus turned to me, his expression shifting through shock, anger, and finally settling on a desperate attempt at charm. "Catherine, honey, this isn't what it looks like. We can talk about this. Send them away and we'll talk." "Oh, we're way past talking." I walked to Nathan's side, feeling the solid presence of my brother's support. "You're right about one thing, though. This isn't your house. It never was. And as of this moment, you're no longer welcome in it." "You can't just kick me out." Marcus's voice rose. "I live here. I have rights." Nathan pulled out a document from his jacket. "Actually, Mr. Reynolds, you have no rights to this property. It's solely in your wife's name, and as the legal property owner, she has every right to deny you access." "What about my things? My clothes?" "We'll arrange a supervised time for you to collect your belongings," Nathan continued, his tone brooking no argument. "But right now, you and your guest need to leave these premises immediately." The blonde woman was already moving toward the door, her earlier confidence shattered. "I didn't know," she stammered. "He said he was divorced. I never would have." "Save it," I said quietly. "Just go." She fled. Marcus stood his ground, his jaw clenched. "You're going to regret this, Catherine. I'll take you for everything in the divorce. That signing bonus? That's marital property. Half of everything you have is mine." "Is it?" I pulled my phone from my pocket and held it up, "because I have recordings of you planning to steal from me. I have security footage of you bringing her into my home repeatedly. And I have evidence that you've been plotting to defraud me of my earnings. So please, Marcus, try to take me to court. I'd love to see how that works out for you." His face mottled red, anger overtaking panic. "You sneaky bitch! You planned this." "No," I corrected him. "You planned this." Nathan stepped forward, his presence a clear barrier between Marcus and me. "Mr. Reynolds, you have 30 seconds to walk out that door voluntarily, or I will arrest you for trespassing, conspiracy to commit fraud, and anything else I can make stick. Your choice." For a moment, I thought Marcus might actually lunge at me, his hands clenched into fists, his whole body rigid with fury. But he wasn't that stupid. "This isn't over," he spat, backing toward the door. "You hear me, Catherine? This isn't over." "Actually," I said, my voice steady, despite the adrenaline coursing through me, "it is." 20 minutes ago, I filed a restraining order application. You'll be served with papers by end of day. Don't come near me, don't contact me, and don't even think about setting foot on this property again." Nathan's deputies moved forward, and Marcus finally broke, turning and stalking out the door. We watched from the windows as he climbed into his Mercedes, the one I'd co-signed for, and peeled out of the driveway with enough force to leave tire marks on the gravel. The house fell silent. I stood in my entryway, my ancestral home that had sheltered 4 generations of Bennett women, and felt something inside me crack open. Not with pain, but with a fierce, burning clarity. Nathan turned to me, his professional mask slipping to reveal concern. "You okay?" "I will be." I met his eyes, seeing the brother I'd lost to pride and stubbornness. "Thank you for coming." "Catherine, I'm sorry Later," I interrupted gently. "Right now, I need to call my lawyer and change every lock in this house and probably burn that mattress." A ghost of a smile crossed his face, practical as ever. I learned from the best. I thought of our father, the judge who'd taught us both that justice and revenge weren't the same thing, but sometimes they walked hand in hand. Nathan's radio crackled, pulling his attention. He spoke briefly with dispatch, then turned back to me. "I have to respond to a call. But Catherine, one of my deputies will stay until you've changed those locks. And when you're ready to talk, really talk about what comes next, call me." "I will." After he left, I walked through my house with new eyes. The furniture Marcus had chosen for the living room, gaudy and expensive, nothing like my taste. The artwork he'd insisted on buying, investments, he'd called them, though I suspected now they were purchased with money he'd skimmed from our joint account. The wine collection in the cellar, stocked with bottles I'd paid for while he pretended to be a connoisseur. All of it was tainted now. I pulled out my phone and made a series of calls. First to a locksmith, who promised to arrive within the hour. Then to my lawyer, a shark of a woman named Diana Chen, who listened to my story with the calm efficiency of someone who'd heard worse. "Forward me everything," Diana said. "The recordings, the security footage, the paper trail. And Catherine, don't delete anything. Don't clean anything up. Leave the wine glasses, the evidence of their presence. When we go to court, I want to bury him so deep he'll need a map to find daylight." "He mentioned my signing bonus," I said, standing in the kitchen doorway where my husband had plotted my theft. "Can he actually claim half of it?" "Not if we can prove he was planning to defraud you." "Which, thanks to your recordings, we absolutely can." Diana's voice sharpened with satisfaction. "In fact, I think we might be able to make a case for him owing you damages. Emotional distress, violation of marital trust, fraud. This prenup you mentioned, let me review it. There might be infidelity clauses we can leverage." The prenup. I'd almost forgotten. My grandmother had insisted on it, much to Marcus's displeasure. At the time, I'd thought she was being paranoid, protecting money that didn't even exist yet. Now I understood. She'd been protecting me. "I'll send it over within the hour," I promised. After I hung up, I walked upstairs to the bedroom, forcing myself to confront the scene of the crime. The bed was unmade, sheets rumpled. My pillow had an indent from someone else's head. The vanilla and jasmine scent was stronger here, mixed with Marcus's cologne. I stripped the bed methodically, stuffing everything into garbage bags. The sheets, the pillows, the comforter my grandmother had given us as a wedding gift, all of it contaminated. I would buy new everything, reclaim this space as mine alone. As I worked, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Catherine Bennett," I answered, my voice clipped. "Miss Bennett, this is Daniel Morrison from Morrison Development." My hand froze on the garbage bag. Morrison Plaza, the project that had started this whole revelation. "Mr. Morrison, is everything all right with the contract?" "More than all right. I'm calling because I've just received an interesting call from your husband." "Ex-husband?" He wasn't entirely clear on the status. Morrison's tone was carefully neutral. He seemed to think he had some authority over your business decisions. He was quite insistent that I speak with him before finalizing our deal. My blood ran cold. "Mr. Morrison, I apologize for any confusion. Marcus has absolutely no authority over my business or personal affairs. We are in the process of separation, and he should not be contacting you at all." "I gathered as much, which is why I'm calling you directly. Miss Bennett, I don't involve myself in personal matters, but I do value integrity and professionalism. Your work speaks for itself, and your personal situation, whatever it may be, doesn't change the quality of your designs." He paused. "However, I thought you should know that he tried to convince me to withhold your signing bonus, pending resolution of marital assets." The audacity stole my breath. Even as he was being escorted from my property, Marcus was trying to sabotage my career. "Thank you for telling me," I managed, "and for not entertaining his request. I built my company on recognizing talent and supporting it. You earned that bonus, Miss Bennett. The contract stands as written, and the funds will be transferred on schedule." Morrison's voice warmed slightly. "In fact, I'm calling to move up the timeline. Would you be available to finalize everything this Friday rather than next week?" Friday would be perfect. After the call ended, I stood in my ravaged bedroom and let myself smile. Marcus thought he could destroy what I'd built. He thought he could steal my success and run away with his mistress. He had no idea who he was dealing with. The locksmith arrived promptly, an efficient man in his 60s who asked no questions about why every lock in the house needed changing. While he worked, I continued my systematic purge of Marcus's presence. His clothes went into boxes, his toiletries, his books, his precious wine collection, everything that belonged to him, I cataloged and stored in the garage. Let him come with a sheriff's escort to collect it all. Let him see how thoroughly I was erasing him from my life. By evening, the house was transformed. New locks, new keys, new alarm codes. The bedroom was stripped bare, ready for new furniture. The kitchen had been scrubbed clean of their presence. I stood in the empty bedroom as the sun set, painting the walls in shades of amber and rose. This had been my grandmother's room once. She'd raised my mother here, taught her to be strong and independent, to never rely on anyone to define her worth. "I should have listened to you from the start," I said to her memory. "You knew he was wrong for me." My phone buzzed with a text from Nathan. "How are you holding up?" "Better than expected," I replied. "Thank you again. That's what family is for. Even when we've been stupid about it for 15 years. I smiled at the screen, feeling the first crack in the wall we'd built between us. "Dinner soon? Name the time. I'll bring the apologies. I'll bring mine too." As night fell over the manor, I made one final call. To Marcus's mother, a woman who'd never quite approved of me, who'd always thought her son deserved someone more traditional, more compliant. "Barbara, it's Catherine." "Catherine, I was just talking to Marcus. He says you've lost your mind, kicking him out over some misunderstanding." "It wasn't a misunderstanding," I interrupted calmly. "I caught him with another woman in our bed. In my bed, in my house. I have video evidence, audio recordings, and documented proof that he was planning to steal from me." Silence. "Barbara, I'm not calling to argue or defend myself. I'm calling as a courtesy to let you know that Marcus will need somewhere to stay. I've filed for a restraining order, and he's not welcome on my property. I suggest you prepare for him to contact you." "You must have done something," she said finally, her voice tight. "Driven him to this. Marcus wouldn't—" "Goodbye, Barbara." I ended the call, feeling no satisfaction, only relief. I'd spent 5 years trying to win that woman's approval, contorting myself to fit her vision of the perfect wife. No more. Exhaustion hit me suddenly, the adrenaline of the day finally fading. I grabbed a blanket and pillow from the linen closet and settled onto the couch in the living room. Tomorrow I would deal with furniture shopping, with legal proceedings, with rebuilding. Tonight, I would sleep in my own home, secure in the knowledge that the locks had been changed, the evidence had been secured, and the first chapter of Marcus's downfall had been written. As I drifted off, I thought about the recordings still saved on my phone. Tomorrow, I would have Diana review them. But for now, I replayed Marcus's words in my mind. Once that's done and the signing bonus hits, we can make our move. He'd been so confident, so sure of himself. He had no idea that his plan had been his undoing, that his own greed had given me every piece of evidence I needed to destroy him in divorce court. The last thought I had before sleep claimed me was simple and sharp. This wasn't just about revenge, this was about justice. And by the time I was done, Marcus Reynolds would understand the difference. Friday morning arrived with the weight of transformation. I stood in Diana Chen's office, watching as she reviewed the mountain of evidence spread across her conference table like a prosecutor preparing for trial. "This is remarkable," Diana said, looking up from the prenuptial agreement. "Your grandmother was thorough. There's an infidelity clause that voids any claim Marcus might have to marital assets. Combined with your recordings proving fraud conspiracy, we don't just have a defense, we have a weapon." "What about his claim to the signing bonus?" I asked, though I already knew the answer from the satisfaction in Diana's expression. "Dead on arrival. The bonus is tied to your individual performance contract, signed before your marriage. It's separate property, and even if it weren't, his documented intent to defraud you nullifies any claim." She slid a document across the table. "I've prepared a counterpetition. We're not just defending against his claims, we're going on the offensive." I scanned the legal filing. Diana was suing Marcus for fraud, conversion of marital assets, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and violation of fiduciary duty. The damages requested made my breath catch. $5 million? Conservative estimate based on the joint accounts he drained, the credit cards he maxed out in your name, and the emotional damages. I also filed for full attorney's fees. Diana's smile was sharp. "By the time we're done, Marcus won't just walk away with nothing he'll owe you." My phone buzzed with an alert. The deposit from the Silicon Valley developer had cleared $3 million, bright and real in my account. The closing was scheduled for next Friday, another $12 million to follow. Marcus had been planning to steal $250,000. He had no idea he'd cost himself access to $15 million. "There's something else," Diana said, pulling out another folder. "The blonde woman, her name is Amber Westfield. She's a paralegal at Marcus's law firm." My stomach dropped. He brought a paralegal from his own firm into my bed? Gets better. She's married to Marcus's boss, the senior partner. Diana's expression was grim satisfaction. "I took the liberty of having someone deliver your security footage to Mr. Westfield this morning, along with timestamps and dates." "Diana, you hired me to protect your interests," she interrupted smoothly. "Marcus's employer has a right to know that one of their employees is engaging in conduct that could expose the firm to liability, especially when that employee used firm resources to plan the fraud against you." I thought about the blonde woman's panicked face as she fled my house, about her lies to the sheriff, claiming she didn't know Marcus was married. She'd known. She'd chosen this. "What happens now?" "Now?" Diana gathered her files with military precision. "Now we wait for Marcus to make his next mistake. And trust me, Catherine, he will. They always do." She was right. By Monday morning, the dominoes were falling faster than I could track. Nathan called at 8 a.m., his voice carrying a mix of professional concern and brotherly satisfaction. "Marcus showed up at your property last night," he reported. "Violated the restraining order. He was trying to break into the garage, presumably for his belongings." "You arrested him?" "My deputy did. He spent the night in county lockup and was arraigned this morning. The judge set bail at $50,000 and issued a stern warning about respecting court orders." I pulled up my security camera app, reviewing the footage. There was Marcus, drunk and furious, trying to jimmy the garage door at 2 a.m. The timestamp would look beautiful in divorce proceedings. "There's more," Nathan continued. "His law firm terminated him this morning. Seems the senior partner didn't appreciate Marcus sleeping with his wife, or the potential liability from his fraud conspiracy, or the fact that he used firm computers to plan it. He's unemployed? As of 2 hours ago. His lawyer called mine. They want to negotiate a settlement." I thought about Marcus's arrogance, his certainty that he'd take me for everything, about the Costa Rica plans he'd made with money that was never his to spend. "No settlement," I said firmly. "I want a trial." "Catherine, are you sure? This could get ugly." "It's already ugly, Nathan. Now it's going to be public." By Tuesday, Marcus's world had collapsed entirely. His Mercedes, the one I'd co-signed for, was repossessed after he missed 2 payments I'd been covering without realizing it. His country club membership was revoked after word spread about his arrest. And most satisfying of all, his mother had apparently locked him out after discovering he'd forged her signature to take out a second mortgage on her house. Diana called with updates throughout the week. Marcus had hired and fired 3 lawyers, none willing to take his case once they reviewed the evidence. The blonde woman, Amber, had been served with divorce papers by her own husband, and the DA's office was now reviewing the fraud recordings to determine if criminal charges were warranted. "He's making it worse for himself," Diana reported during our Thursday call. "He posted on social media claiming you entrapped him, that the whole thing was a setup. His own words are evidence of consciousness, of guilt." "What about the Morrison contract?" "Signing bonus hits your account tomorrow as scheduled. I've already filed notice with the court that it's separate property, along with documentation of Marcus's attempt to interfere with your business relationship." I stood in my newly redecorated bedroom, new furniture, new linens, new everything, and felt the weight of the past week settling into something solid and real. This wasn't just about punishing Marcus. It was about reclaiming what he'd tried to take. My peace, my home, my future. Friday arrived with the precision of justice finally delivered. I sat in Diana's office as Morrison's attorney wired the signing bonus, $250,000, the amount Marcus had planned to steal, now safely in an account he'd never touch. "The firm sale closes next week," Diana reminded me. "The developer's legal team confirmed all documents are ready. $15 million. The culmination of 12 years of work, of building something from nothing, of proving myself in an industry that didn't make space for women easily. I want to do something with part of it," I said suddenly. "Set up a foundation. For women escaping financial abuse, women who need legal help in divorces, women rebuilding their careers." Diana looked up, her professional mask softening into genuine approval. "That's a worthy use of resources. I can recommend some excellent nonprofit attorneys to help you structure it." "The Catherine Bennett Foundation," I said, testing the name. "No, the Eleanor Bennett Foundation, after my grandmother. She'd be proud of you." I thought about my grandmother's warnings about Marcus, about her insistence on the prenup, about the way she'd built her own fortune after her husband died and left her nothing. She'd known what it was to fight for security, to protect what was yours. This would be her legacy too. The divorce trial was scheduled for late October, 6 weeks away. Diana spent those weeks building an airtight case, while I focused on rebuilding my life. I sold Marcus's wine collection at auction, donating the proceeds to domestic violence shelters. I converted his office back into a proper guest room. I had dinner with Nathan twice a week, slowly rebuilding the relationship we'd let crumble over pride and distance. "You seem different," Nathan observed one evening over Chinese takeout in my kitchen. "Stronger." "I feel different," I admitted, "like I've been holding my breath for 5 years, and I'm finally exhaling." "Marcus called me yesterday," Nathan said carefully. "Tried to claim police harassment. Wanted me to drop the restraining order violation charges." "What did you tell him?" "That I don't interfere with active cases, and that he should focus on getting his life together before he loses what little he has left." Nathan's expression hardened. "He's not doing well, Catherine. Living in a motel. No job, no prospects. His mother won't speak to him. Amber Westfield's husband is suing him for alienation of affection." I waited for the satisfaction, the vindication. Instead, I felt only a hollow sort of completion. "I didn't want to destroy him, Nathan. I just wanted him gone." You defended yourself. There's a difference." The trial, when it finally arrived, was anticlimactic. Diana had built such an overwhelming case that Marcus's fourth attorney, the only one willing to take his money, advised him to settle on the morning of proceedings. I sat in the courtroom as Diana laid out the terms. Marcus would receive nothing from the marriage. He would pay $50,000 in damages for the fraud conspiracy. He would sign away any claim to my current or future earnings. The house, the cars, the investments, all mine. Marcus sat at the defendant's table, unshaven and hollow-eyed, as his attorney explained that fighting would only result in worse outcomes. The judge reviewed our evidence briefly, then looked at Marcus with undisguised disapproval. "Mr. Reynolds, I'm approving this settlement because it's more than fair to you given the circumstances. You conspired to defraud your wife, violated her trust, and damaged her property and peace of mind. The fact that she's willing to settle for these terms, rather than pursue criminal charges, shows more grace than you deserve." Marcus signed the papers without looking at me. It was over. I walked out of the courthouse into October sunshine, feeling lighter than I had in years. Diana handed me the finalized divorce decree. "You're free," she said simply. Thank you. For everything. Thank you for being the kind of client who comes prepared. Diana smiled. Those recordings you made saved us months of investigation. Your security system gave us proof. Your financial documentation showed the pattern. You did most of the work yourself. I thought about the afternoon I'd stood in my guest room, listening to Marcus plot my destruction. About the choice I'd made to gather evidence rather than confront him emotionally. About the patience I'd learned from my grandmother, from my father, from watching people who understood that power wasn't about the loudest voice, it was about the longest game. What happens to Marcus now? He has 30 days to pay the damages or face wage garnishment. Given that he's currently unemployed, I suspect we'll be garnishing unemployment benefits for quite some time. Diana closed her briefcase. He's also facing potential criminal charges for the fraud conspiracy. The DA's office is still reviewing. I don't want to press charges, I said suddenly. The civil case is enough. Diana studied me for a long moment. You're sure? I'm sure. Let him live with what he's lost. That's punishment enough. The months that followed were a revelation. I closed the sale of my firm, pocketing $15 million and signing a consulting agreement that kept me connected to my designs without the burden of daily operations. I launched the Eleanor Bennett Foundation with $2 million in seed funding, hiring a staff of lawyers and counselors dedicated to helping women navigate divorce and financial abuse. Nathan and I began having Sunday dinners at the manor, slowly filling the house with new memories that had nothing to do with Marcus. I dated casually, nothing serious, enjoying the freedom of choosing my own company. And Marcus? I heard updates occasionally, never seeking them out but unable to avoid them entirely in our interconnected social circles. He'd taken a job as a contract attorney for a small firm in another county. He'd moved into a studio apartment. He'd been required to attend financial management classes as part of his settlement. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I received a letter forwarded through Diana's office. Marcus's handwriting. Careful and small. Catherine, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know that I've spent the past 6 months in therapy, trying to understand how I became the person who could do what I did to you. You were right about everything. I was jealous of your success, threatened by your independence, resentful of your family's wealth. I convinced myself that I deserved a piece of what you'd built, that your accomplishments somehow diminished me. I was wrong, about all of it. I know you've moved on, and you should. You always were stronger than me, smarter than me, better than me, in every way that mattered. I just wish I'd had the courage to admit that before I destroyed everything. I hope you're happy. You deserve to be. Marcus. I read the letter twice, then filed it away. Not as a trophy, not as validation, but as a reminder that the person I'd been married to hadn't been entirely fiction. Somewhere under the arrogance and the entitlement, there had been a man capable of self-reflection. But that wasn't my concern anymore. I stood in my grandmother's bedroom, my bedroom now, looking out over the gardens I'd had restored to their original Victorian glory. The house felt alive again, filled with my things, my choices, my future. My phone rang. Nathan. Probably confirming Sunday dinner. Hey, I answered. Hey yourself. Listen, I have a friend I want you to meet. He's a prosecutor, recently divorced, way too serious about vintage cars. Thought you two might hit it off. I smiled, thinking about the irony of my sheriff brother setting me up on dates. Is this your way of vetting my potential suitors through a background check? Yes, absolutely yes. Is that a problem? Not even a little bit. I laughed, genuine and free. Sunday dinner? Bring him along. You're sure you're ready? I thought about the question. 6 months ago, I'd discovered my husband's betrayal. 6 months ago, I'd lost my marriage, my trust, my sense of safety, but I'd gained so much more. My home, truly mine, my business, sold on my terms, my future, unlimited and uncompromised, my relationship with Nathan, restored and stronger, my sense of self, unshakable. I'm ready, I said. After we hung up, I walked through the house, room by room, remembering the afternoon I'd come home early, the moment I'd heard Marcus say my name with contempt, the choice I'd made to be strategic rather than emotional, to gather evidence rather than confront, to play the long game rather than seek immediate satisfaction. That choice had saved me. I ended up in the study that had once been Marcus's office. Now it was my foundation's headquarters, walls lined with photos of women we'd helped, letters of thanks, success stories of rebuilding and reclaiming. One photo caught my eye, a woman in her 50s, standing in front of her newly purchased home, holding keys and grinning with the kind of joy that came from surviving something terrible and coming out stronger. That was what I'd wanted. Not revenge, though it had felt like that in the heat of discovery. Not destruction, though Marcus's life had certainly collapsed. What I'd wanted was freedom, the freedom to live without fear, without manipulation, without someone else's greed defining my future. I'd won that freedom. Not by being cruel, not by being vindictive, but by being prepared. By documenting everything, by understanding my rights, by building a case so solid that justice was inevitable. The sun set over the manor's grounds, painting everything in shades of gold and amber. Tomorrow, the foundation would help another woman file for divorce, would connect another survivor with free legal services, would provide another person with the resources they needed to escape financial abuse. Tomorrow, I would have Sunday dinner with my brother and meet someone new, with no expectations and no pressure, just the possibility of connection. Tomorrow, Marcus would wake up in his studio apartment, facing the consequences of his choices, hopefully learning the lessons that might make him a better person. But tonight, I stood in my house, my sanctuary, my inheritance, and felt the weight of the past 6 months settle into something like peace. I thought about everything. I'd lost a marriage, an illusion of partnership, the naive trust I'd once had in easy love, and I thought about everything I'd gained, my home, my freedom, my strength, my future. The balance wasn't even close. I'd won. Not because Marcus had lost everything, though he had. Not because I'd executed a perfect legal strategy, though Diana and I certainly had. Not even because justice had been served, though it absolutely had. I'd won because I'd remembered who I was. Catherine Bennett, granddaughter of Eleanor Bennett, daughter of Judge Henry Bennett, sister of Sheriff Nathan Pierce. A woman from a long line of survivors and fighters, people who understood that power wasn't about domination, it was about protection. I'd protected what was mine. My home, my work, my peace, my future, and now? Standing in the house that had witnessed generations of Bennett women finding their strength, I understood what my grandmother had been trying to teach me all along. The best revenge isn't about destroying your enemy, it's about building something so solid, so true, so unshakably yours that no one can ever take it away. I picked up my phone and texted Nathan, "Looking forward to Sunday. And tell your friend I prefer 67 Mustangs to vintage Corvettes." His response came immediately. "He's going to love you. Or be terrified. Possibly both." I laughed, putting my phone away and taking one last look at the manor's grounds before turning off the lights. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new beginnings. But tonight, I would sleep in my own bed, in my own house, with my own future stretching out before me like an unwritten book. And that, I thought as I climbed the stairs to my sanctuary, was the only victory that mattered. The house that Marcus had tried to use against me, the home he'd violated with his betrayal, was mine again. Fully, completely, irrevocably mine. The locks had been changed. The evidence had been documented. The justice had been served. And I was free. The end. 6 months later, epilogue. The Eleanor Bennett Foundation's first annual gala was held in the manor's restored ballroom, the same space where my grandmother had hosted charity events for decades. 200 people filled the room, all of them supporters of our mission to help women escape financial abuse and rebuild their lives. I stood at the podium, looking out at faces I knew and faces I didn't, all united in the belief that everyone deserved the resources to protect themselves. My grandmother used to say that the best inheritance wasn't money. I began. It was wisdom, the wisdom to protect what's yours, to fight for what matters, and to help others do the same. In the back of the room, Nathan stood with his prosecutor friend Daniel, who had indeed been impressed by my knowledge of vintage cars and had turned out to be kind, funny, and refreshingly uncomplicated. We'd been dating for 3 months, taking things slow, building something on a foundation of honesty. This year, the Eleanor Bennett Foundation helped 247 women navigate divorces, secure restraining orders, and reclaim their financial independence. We provided free legal services, financial counseling, and emergency housing assistance. We helped women understand their rights and find their strength. I paused, thinking about the afternoon 6 months ago when I'd stood in my guest room, listening to Marcus plot my destruction. About the choice I'd made to be strategic, to be smart, to be patient. And next year, we're going to help even more. The applause was thunderous. After my speech, I mingled with donors and volunteers, hearing stories of survival and triumph that reminded me why this work mattered. A woman approached me near the end of the evening, her eyes shining with emotion. "Miss Bennett, I used your foundation's services during my divorce. Your lawyers helped me prove my ex-husband had been hiding assets. I got everything I was entitled to: the house, fair child support, my business. I just wanted to say thank you." "You did the hard part," I told her. "We just provided the tools." "Still," she said, squeezing my hand, "thank you for building this, for understanding." As the gala wound down, Daniel found me on the terrace, overlooking the gardens lit with fairy lights. "Hell of a party," he said, handing me a glass of champagne. "Hell of a year," I corrected, accepting the glass. "Any regrets?" I thought about the question, really considered it. Did I regret trusting Marcus, marrying him, not seeing the signs sooner? "No," I said finally, "because if I hadn't gone through it, I wouldn't have understood what these women face. I wouldn't have built the foundation. I wouldn't have reconnected with Nathan. I wouldn't have learned what I'm actually capable of." That's a remarkably healthy perspective. I had good teachers. I raised my glass toward the stars, and a grandmother who made sure I'd always have the resources to fight back. Daniel clinked his glass against mine. "To Eleanor Bennett." "To Eleanor Bennett," I echoed, "and to every woman who refuses to be a victim." As we stood there in the garden of my ancestral home, I thought about the journey from that afternoon of discovery to this evening of celebration, about the transformation from betrayed wife to foundation director, from broken trust to rebuilt life. Marcus had tried to steal my future. Instead, he'd forced me to claim it. And as I stood there with Daniel, with my brother's laughter carrying from the ballroom, with the knowledge that my foundation was changing lives, I understood the final lesson my grandmother had been trying to teach me. Revenge wasn't about destruction. It was about transformation. And I had transformed everything. The manor that had witnessed my humiliation now hosted galas celebrating women's strength. The money Marcus had tried to steal now funded legal battles for those who couldn't afford them. The recordings I'd made that afternoon had become evidence not just in my case, but in a broader fight against financial abuse. I'd turned Marcus's betrayal into something powerful, something lasting, something that would help women long after my own wounds had healed. That was the real victory. Not the divorce settlement, not the seized assets, not even the satisfaction of watching Marcus face consequences. The victory was standing here, whole and strong and free, using my experience to protect others. "Ready to go inside?" Daniel asked, offering his arm. "Ready," I said, taking it. As we walked back toward the ballroom, I looked up at the manor's facade, at the windows glowing with warmth and light. 4 generations of Bennett women had called this house home. 4 generations had faced their own battles, their own betrayals, their own moments of choosing between weakness and strength. And now, the house stood as a symbol of something greater than any one woman's triumph. It stood as proof that when women protected each other, when they shared resources and knowledge and strength, they became unbeatable. Marcus had tried to take this from me. He'd failed, and in failing, he'd helped me build something that would outlast both of us. The Eleanor Bennett Foundation would help women for generations. The manor would stand as its headquarters, a beacon for those seeking justice and freedom. And I would continue the work my grandmother had started, protecting what mattered and helping others do the same. That was the legacy I'd choose. Not revenge, but revolution. One woman at a time, one case at a time, one victory at a time. And as I stepped back into the ballroom, into the warmth and light and celebration, I knew with absolute certainty that I'd made the right choice that afternoon 6 months ago. Not the choice to destroy Marcus, though that had happened as a consequence of his own actions. The choice to save myself. And in saving myself, to help save others. That was the ultimate revenge, turning pain into purpose, betrayal into triumph, and a house that witnessed humiliation into a headquarters for justice. My grandmother would have been proud. I was proud, and that, finally, was enough. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.